Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning. Oh, we gotta start the music. I always forget to start the music. Tuesday. It seems like I'm having some issues here, though. Oh, you know what? I think that I forgot to start my Rhythmic. Hold on, let's come over here for a second. Actually, you can just come to. You can just look at my beautiful face while I'm trying to figure it out. Did I just forget to start Rhythmic? I think so. Yeah. Morning, A. Paul Allen. Aha. Yes. So it was that. Well, the first thing I'm seeing here, gotta keep in mind that when I come in here, this is like the first time I'm looking at the charts. So I read a bunch of stuff, and so I have a good idea of what things are doing. But this is the first time I'm looking at the charts. The first thing I'm seeing here on Twitter is Bitcoin extends losses, drops as much as 3.5% to session low of 60,000, lowest since April 19th. I find this move in Bitcoin a little bit troubling for the future of Bitcoin because they should be taking off by now, right? All right, let's come over to the chart. So here you got the treasuries. It looks like they're continuing that slight gentle uptrend. I am kind of starting to think that the Federal Reserve meeting might be, and let's not say dovish, but slightly relief rally sort of a thing. So we're up overnight. S&P 500 yesterday, like another one of those like big dips, and then they bought it back. And we are supposed to be getting like stock buybacks and everything kind of coming back this week. So again, my synopsis for the flows in the S&P 500 would be sideways to up. Oil kind of back and forth there. It still kind of sounds like an Israeli invasion of Gaza. Oh, excuse me, I got a sneeze. Good grief. The Israeli invasion of Rafah is still kind of like imminent, next 3 days sort of a thing. They're still waiting on like diplomacy options before they go all in, I guess. Oil up just a tad bit, maybe related to that. We'll see. Oil and gold and silver kind of struggling here, taking another pretty major hit to date, but that mostly takes it to the bottom end of its range. And copper taking a hit too. So things must not be so hot in China overnight. I didn't read any numbers that were like super bad, but whatever. Okay, and then here is the Japanese yen. Well, not too much movement since that intervention yesterday, but their markets should be in full swing today. So I guess we'll see where they go from here. You can kind of see the dollar still in the 105.5 range. I'm actually surprised that this yen intervention bit here didn't affect the dollar more. So that's kind of interesting to me. And then Bitcoin, you can't forget Bitcoin, starting to get towards that 60K again. Like what the heck? We're supposed to get inflows. It doesn't look to me like the inflows are actually coming to Bitcoin. Now, there's still a lot of manipulation, but there was manipulation over in here. So for them to come back to 60K is a little bit troubling. And if they lose it, there's a point at which you're going to get a decline in Bitcoin that could be truly ugly. So I still kind of think that ETFs should bring some more flows in, but I don't know. maybe that's all there was. Maybe all the money that's available to get into Bitcoin is already in. Okay, so I was not expecting any major news. Oh wait, did we just get like Treasury refunding announcement or something like that? Why? What did I miss? What did I miss? Because that was a pretty big move down there in the treasuries. That was a monster move. But, well, yeah, Canadian GDP, but like, okay, Canadian GDP month over month, spot 2 versus an expected spot 3. That would not cause the treasuries to move down. U.S. employment costs 1 spot 2 versus 1%. That could move the treasury market, but I wouldn't expect it to move it that much. And we did get like the treasury refunding yesterday, but like this is another one of those ones where like I always I'm kind of like not in the know that like they announce the refunding and then the next day they say like how much in certain bills are going to come through and so forth. So could it be that? Could it be that? Wowzer. Was definitely not expecting a move like that this morning. Well, what do we do from here then? I kind of think, oh, I don't know. My first gut reaction is to fade it, to be honest. My first gut reaction is to fade it. I mean, if it's employment costs, I kind of suspect they'll retrace it, but I don't really actually know what's going on here. So I guess I'm just going to be hands off. Incoming junior Wall Street analysts could be in danger of losing their jobs to AI. Sources within banks told the New York Times banks are reportedly cutting analyst hiring by 2/3 per Business Insider. Well, you know what I think happens here with this one is like a bunch of companies are like, oh yeah, we have artificial intelligence now. We don't need as many people. And then they start to fall behind because they find out that the artificial intelligences aren't all that great. I was listening to another trader who just happens to be streaming this morning, and it hit really hard how stupid that algorithm makes the market talk sounds to me now. Man, it really, I tell you what, not that I want to make today's stream like a let's bash other streams and creators sort of a thing, okay? But like there are some of these YouTube creators out there that are into the markets, and I really wonder how anybody stands listening to these guys more than 30 seconds. Like there are some of them that are just really like so obviously narcissistic. It's just like every other sentence is praising themselves, and I like how is that attractive to anybody? Like, it's mind-boggling to me that there's a large number of people that enjoy listening to that. But I don't know, it's mind-boggling to me that there are people that come in and listen to me every day. So I don't know. You made it to about 3 minutes. Do you remember, well, like, so I think we're talking about ICT, right? Do you remember like the first time that we really kind of had heard about ICT. Remember, because there was this guy and he was coming into the stream and he sounded like a pretty good like loyal beginner viewer. And then after about 3 days, he's like, what do you think about ICT? I was like, I don't know. I would be kind of suspicious about him. So then I go and I watch one of his videos and like try and sort out like what he's actually saying. And I was like, this guy's a narcissist. It's like so obvious. I can't, like, I would stay away. I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. Like, oh my gosh. Like, just thinking back on that one. Because, like, I kind of knew back then. Like, this is just gonna get worse. Right? Supposedly we're past peak smart money concepts, but it takes a while for these sorts of things to die, I think. You know, okay, so we need to think about the flows here for a little bit. So today we had employment costs. Let's add strong reaction to employment costs. End of month. FOMC tomorrow. CPY seems quiet post-intervention. Possible Israel headlines. You're going to go to the pool finally in May. That's an idea. Okay, so if today is the last day of the month, where are we on the month? Well, if you're an index fund or a risk parity fund, you lost money in April on your equities. Not too bad, but a little bit of a haircut. And you lost money on treasuries too. Probably you lost more money on treasuries than equities. So does that mean that you have to sell your stocks and buy some treasuries? End of month, let's say possible buy flows. Let's just add down in here to the bottom. Maybe it should have some sort of a system to like signify my confidence in something. But I don't think that like from a 1 to a 5 would really work. You know? What do you think? Low confidence. Say like low, moderate, and high confidence. Well, the treasuries here, they did bounce a little bit, but it fell right back to the bottom pretty easily. This was not like normal. Normally you kind of get something like this. Maybe lower. Okay. This one was like, you know, like it just went sideways. So he just perfectly drew what NQ has been doing this morning. I think if employment costs are high, oh wait, what's this? Nikki Leaks says Fed to signal it has stomach to keep rates high for longer, says the Wall Street Journal. Oh, Nikki Leaks, they're talking about Nick. What's Nick's last name? Timorous. Nick Timorous. Okay, let's add that into news and events. That's curious. But that tweet that I'm looking at looks to me like that was posted several hours ago. That kind of changes my perspective on things. I'm going to leave this here that the flows are expected to be the long side, low confidence, but I think that this could mean back and forth. In other words, I think that like the better trade, like if I was going to swing, I think that the better trade would be to go short, but that you are probably going to see some long flows here today because of the last day of the month. So I'm not 100% confident that the flow in the treasury is long for the end of the month. I'm making a really big guess there because I do not have a sophisticated enough model to estimate how much money has to rebalance. IG Squawk says sharp cable move on the US employment data. Interesting. Well, I mean, the euro moved and the Japanese yen moved. Oh man. Okay, so wait, hold on. Where does that put us with the yen? Okay, it's a pretty big move, but it's not like the end of the world in the yen. I'm just gonna zoom in on this a bit so we can see it. A little bit of a push is down. I have never seen US employment cost index to be a large mover ever. I don't recall that ever being a big thing. So that's interesting. Getting a little bit better of a pushback, but they haven't busted the high end of this range at 20.5, so. Do you remember me? Well, the name seems awfully familiar, but I don't remember anything about you. Sorry. That does remind me, somebody was making wanted to do like an like use a webhook with NinjaTrader, and they couldn't get it to work. I should look at that. What are my, so if I come in here to alerts, conditions, actions, place sound, show a pop-up dialog, submit an order. So I would need to program something to make it happen. Do you use that doesn't jog my memory. They pushed out of this one tick, but it's still kind of just hanging out there at 20. Now, it looks like the college students are protesting in Salt Lake City. You know, this is one of the things that I think is so hilarious about the liberal activists in Utah. That they're such copycats. Like, they're never at the forefront. It's always like, stuff has been going on for a week. Hey, we should do one of them protest things too. Do you use Top Step? You and like thousands of others. How many people a month do you think do the combine? I mean, they got a pretty sizable business over there. Do you think how many combine traders are there out there compared to the number of retail traders trading their own account? Do you think there are more prop firm traders than there are traders trading their own account? I think that there are more. My guess is there are more. Is it multiples of it? Could be. I bet you that for every one trader there is out there trading their own account, that there are 4 or 5 combine traders. Can I call them combines? I always called them combines, but not funded, just trading the combine. Somebody disagreed with me on Reddit. I can't. I wish I could. I wish I had numbers on that. I mean, you could get the number of people doing a combine. That's possibly information that we could potentially get a hold of. But how many retail traders are there trading their own account? I don't know. Somebody disagreed. I better make the whole stream. Well, I'm not going to call this particular person out, but I'll tell you what we were talking about. I'll tell you what we were talking about on Reddit. They were talking about Jeff Bezos. They were saying, you know, these billionaire entrepreneurs, Jeff Bezos isn't self-made. He had $300,000 in seed capital from his parents and friends. And I'm I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. I think that raising $300,000 from your friends and family is incredibly difficult. Everybody treats it like it was just a gift. He didn't really actually work hard for that. He just got lucky, and you know, he had these advantages that you and I didn't have. And I'm like, well, I mean, I don't have $300,000. I could probably raise $300,000 from my friends and family, but it would be super hard. Because, like, look, I think that I have a very good reputation as having somebody with a lot of integrity and being a serious person that would take the responsibility of using other people's capital effectively and not just gambling it or doing something stupid with it. But you know, you're still talking about other people's money, and large, like $300,000 back then. That's a lot. And you know, it's hard to convince friends and family to do that sort of a thing. In some respects, it's harder to convince friends and family to give you money than it is to convince total strangers. You know, because with total strangers, at least you can go and target somebody that is used to taking risks with their money, you know? So I'm actually really impressed with how Jeff Bezos got his start. If Jeff Bezos was here, that's what I would ask him about. Because I would be like, what was it like raising seed capital in the beginning and convincing friends and family to give you 300? Like, how did you do that? You know, that's what I would think would be interesting to ask Jeff Bezos. And everybody on Reddit treats it like, oh, well, actually, he's just born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Is this that, you know, is just that kind of bias that people have, that they will underestimate how much like their own success has to do with their efforts, and how their own losses are due to external circumstances outside of their control. I kind of think maybe, because when I look back on my own life, you know, like I've done pretty good, pretty happy with where I'm at, but I could have been a millionaire already. And you know, there was just a couple of things where, like, the circumstances, they just didn't quite come together, you know? And I could blame that on luck, but ultimately I don't think it is luck. It's like there was choices that I could have made that would have put me there, and I was just not interested in them at the time, you know? So it's my fault, really. Seems like your successes and your losses are a combination of both success and luck, but that, you know, if you're doing the things that you're supposed to, that in the end they work out. This could just be the ruminations of my own mind, though, because, like, one of the things that I'm thinking about lately is, like, you know, I don't know if my plans are always super good, but you can have a lot of success just executing well on a terrible plan, you know? Executing well on a terrible plan. I'm kind of starting to feel like that a lot of people in modern society don't understand this. They're too stuck in their head intellectualizing everything, whether or not it will work, to just commit themselves to it. Maybe this guy that's trying to do the webhook for the indicator is using a newer version of indicator, and it allows for something that I don't have. Oh yeah, let's double check in here. Oh, we have Chicago PMI. That's another one. Yellen is speaking. Amazon earnings today. Dude, we've got a ton going on today. I did not realize. I don't know. I don't think that the flows that I'm seeing right now are really congruent with the number of flow things. So this one is kind of a unique situation, I think, because we have a ton of things listed for the flows. And because we have so many different things listed for the flows, it makes it hard for me to, you know, sort out some sort of an imbalance with that. But then I would expect there to be a decent amount of trade and to have a fairly active session, and I don't think that we're getting that. Would note rather that since the big sell, since we got slammed down here, the flow in the, well, not in the 30-year, but in the 5 and the 10-year has been slightly to the sell side. So I think this, you know, treasury flow is expected to be the long side, but with low confidence, I think I'm kind of starting to shift to short. But let's just kind of let it simmer a little bit. That's interesting. Here's a post on r/conservative showing a fundraising email being sent out by the Biden campaign, where they're basically admitting that they are trailing in a number of national and battleground state polls and that they need more money, which is, this one is actually kind of funny to me because they have raised so much money. They're like, oh, we need more money to be able to win. Okay. I don't think that's going to help you, but okay. Okay, my news squawk just reminding me that, like, the what is it, Case Shiller? Yeah, Case Shiller at the top of the hour house price index. That I think we'll probably see a little bit of movement off of that. Okay, so there's the numbers. My little thing is not updating over here, but it sounds like it was pretty close to in line, if not slightly hot. Still stuck at 20. Well, 2013, 100. That big order at 17.5. Pull up the cost basis. Oh yeah, you want to see that? That's a good idea. So the average sell market maker position that we would be looking at here is 23. 23. I don't know if we're going to get it back there. You know, this is absolutely the sort of situation where I would expect that, you know, there would be some sort of a rebalancing, but it's not happening. It's just kind of like gone dead down here. Wow. YouTuber begs people not to post videos of his reckless crash in a rare McLaren. Oh. And they removed it. Where was the video? Then I want to see it. Who is this YouTuber? Oh, this guy's name is Mondi. Wow, 190,000 subscribers. And what is this thing? Cars? Dude. Can you imagine? Can you imagine having a car channel and destroying a one-of-a-kind? There's only one of them. Only one Kiwi edition McLaren Senna. And he crashed it. Ooh. That's rough, buddy. Oh, man. Oh, by the way, you know, yesterday I said, hey, if everybody comes to our momentum strategy video and leaves a comment on it, that will really help the video. You guys did super great. Here, let me post the video again. That's terrible. Why is it giving me such a long one? Oh well, whatever. Couple of funny and nonsensical comments, but you guys did comment, and I think it super helped. Actually, let's go look at the stats. Look at the stats on that video. Yeah. Okay. So not the worst, but you know, we would have liked to have seen it more like 200 or 300. And some of these videos have been kind of at that higher end. Okay, and most of them are getting it from the recommendations. That's good. or I guess what we would expect. I would want to see, like, people finding it from search, though, as well. Okay, so there is at least one person that's found it from search. Russia on the move. You know, I haven't spoken about that at all, but it sounds to me like the front lines in Ukraine are kind of falling apart and that they're in a pretty dire situation right now. By the way, what do you think about my thumbnail on that video? I did a bunch of things, you know, using my face and all this sort of stuff, but ultimately I settled on a background image that ChatGPT made for me. Okay, they're maybe gonna try and bust out here again. They are just super shy about that 2021. I think the 2-year needs more volume here before we move one way or the other. You know, it hasn't been 45 minutes yet. So, like, if I was going to passively execute an order, I don't think that I would be doing it quite yet. I mean, I would be playing in this area, but I would be super tepid and super gentle with it. I wouldn't be, like, pushing it. We're going to get, like, a push. Because, like, look, there is some liquidity here on the offer for the taking if I was going to, you know, if I needed to buy. Right? Like, if I needed to buy for the end of the month, well, except for that, then you get the Chicago PMI. So if I was going to execute on that, I would maybe wait until after the CV consumer confidence even. And then maybe do it. But that makes it kind of a tough call for us, doesn't it? You just gotta continue being patient, I think. Oh my gosh. If I go to the Salt Lake City subreddit on the post on the protests, half of the comments are deleted. I tell you what, the censorship in the Salt Lake City subreddit is like for real, super hardcore. It's there. There's like liberal activists that have taken over a lot of the local subreddits and really push it. Because how do you get, like, most people in Utah are conservative, right? But the subreddits, the Utah and Salt Lake City subreddits are not conservative in the least bit. And there was always this group of people that would comment on articles at the Salt Lake Tribune. And I kind of think they're the same people. It's like a small group of activists that have decided to dominate the conversation and intentionally bully anybody else that wants to contribute out. For real. Ugh. If the order book is too fast, how do you follow it? That's a good question. So, in the S&P 500, the order book is often too fast, right? So, the first thing I would say is trade a more liquid instrument like the 10-year Treasury, because then the 10-year Treasury is going to be a little bit slower and should give you more room to execute. Sometimes it still moves really quick, and you can either really focus in on playing that game and being fast, or kind of do what I do and just kind of sit back and be like, okay, with the aftermath, we'll just play at higher time frame, right? Another thing that you can do if you have Jigsaw is you can use tick aggregation. So if you use the tick aggregation, that will make it a little bit easier for you to read what's going on. But, when the book is moving fast like that, it's a completely different kind of situation. It's a completely different type of order flow, and your trading basically ends up having to be completely different. I can often get really good reads. It's often astounding to me how often I will get involved in some of those. And of course, it doesn't always work out, but a lot of the time I will, there's a pullback and everything, and I will pick the very edge of that pullback. I don't know how I do that, but it's there. Of course, it kind of whether or not I win on such a trade still has more to do with me understanding what the larger flows are going to be, whether it's long or short. So. Apparently, what the students at the university want is for the university to divest from international brands and companies that are associated with Israel. Well, like Intel? How's Intel doing? You know what? We should visit Koifin. We haven't been there in a few days. I've been forgetting to do that. Probably should do it after they open up. Oh, hold on. I gotta log in. Let's see. My watch lists. Rare earth elements still around 19 cents. Okay, so we were talking about Intel. Let's go and find them on here first. They'll be further down, I think. Semiconductor Intel. $31. That's not bad. Yeah, because where I was looking to buy it before was like in the 20s. Okay, but it is pretty bad for the year. And it looks like that they had another gap down after their earnings. Can you somehow see the percent instead of the orders? Ah, that's also a good question. So if you come here and you look at the power meter, click the power meter, and this will show you the total number of orders that have come through, both long and short, and you can like reset it when you choose to. And there's a couple of settings in here too. Let's see here. There's the power meter settings. So there's like additional ones that are like snapshot and depth power meters. If you pull up the power meters for the other types, like I think, is it this one right here, the summary tape? Summary tape. And I think the summary tape has a power meter. Oh, nope, it's the reconstructed tape that has it. It's the reconstructed tape that has it. Here it's got a power meter. Okay, and then they got slightly different options, right? So here I got a short term and a long term. And I can tell it all trades, filtered trades. Okay, and then the other one will be like the larger. Okay, and do it like that. Okay, so now you can kind of see the balance of the orders in the last 1 minute, 5 minutes, and like total. That's actually something that I should be watching. You know, if I had room for it and the attention span and everything, I would totally put that up. Okay. Another thing. Coming over to the charts here. No, I don't want to add it to that chart. I'm just going to duplicate this chart in a new window. Remove everything. Come on over here into my speculator Seth. So, this one is included in the latest version, but I never talk about it because it's a secret weapon. But I'm going to show it to you. The period that I'm choosing here is 10. And what this indicator does is it's telling me over the time period what is the percentage between buys and sells, basically. So like what percent are the buys relative to the total amount of volume. So when you're getting to like 70 and 30, you'll notice that there's a strong propensity for it to flip. And this makes good spots for scalps. What I want to do, like when I'm getting into back testing and so forth again, which I think is still a ways off, but I think that this is going to be one of the main features that I want to pass into the machine learning. And if I can add onto it, you know, these sorts of things to suggest what the larger flows are. Because where it gets screwed up is like, if we're in a trend, then it's basically always going to take trades against the trend, and that's not what you want, right? You only want to take the shorts, not the longs. So that's the problem with it. But when you're in line with the larger trend, it provides really, really good turnaround spots. And this is straight up just percentage, showing you the percentage of orders in the last 10 minutes that are buy versus sell. And I find it incredibly useful. And I've found, I did one of my algorithms is based off of this. There you go. So, did I close Koifin? Oh my gosh. What's wrong with you? We'll open it back up after the market opens. Looks like they're going back to the other end of the range again. they may just stay in this range until the Chicago PMI. But let's remember that the Chicago PMI comes out to subscribers 3 minutes early. So don't get caught off guard on that one. It is like open interest. In the respect that it's like a percentage, I guess. Christy Noam. We talked about Christy Noam this week? I don't think we have. This is when Salon says Christy Noam doubled down on dog killing to win over MAGA. Now her story is backfiring in her face. No. Okay, this one is weird. Christy Noam had a dog, and she bought it to be a hunting dog. And it wouldn't hunt. And the dog was like actually killing the neighbor's chickens and things like that. So they put the dog down. She took it out into the woods and she shot it. There are some situations where if you have a dog, especially like a hunting dog like that, might not necessarily be able to turn it into a house pet. Right? It might be too wild for that. And if it's causing problems, there are definitely situations where you may have to put a dog down. But the way that she talked about it, dude, okay, because I presented it that just now in the way that I think you would want to present it, which is, you know, the dog was causing enough problems. We did not feel that we could rehome it, and so we really had no choice but to put the dog down. And I used the term "put the dog down," right? The way that she talked about it was almost like boasting about doing it. Yeah. Didn't really show empathy towards the dog. Didn't really stress the situation, that they felt it was a necessary thing and that there wasn't another way around it. The way that she explains it is that she was pissed off at the dog and so she killed it for retribution or something. Like, wait, what did Uzi say? Her situation was a retributive one. They killed the dog as an exchange for it killing the neighbor's chicken. This wasn't this animal is useless scenario. Well, I'm not saying this animal is useless. I'm saying this animal was a nuisance and that they couldn't rehabilitate it, let's say, right? Because that's all of the discussion that I saw online about it was like, well, you don't just kill it, that's where it turns into a barn dog. Nah, doesn't sound like that was in the cards from the situation. But her fault, like, that would have been like a key point to tell in the story that she didn't, you know? Also, pretty tired of this farm life BS around this topic, like it's 1906 and there's no options for a dog that just ain't training, right? Maybe. But I mean, that's the whole point, right? Is that I'm trying to make, is that if I was telling a story like that, I would really stress why we felt that killing the dog was necessary. And the way that she told the story really makes it seem like that killing the dog was not necessary. And I think that the left's approach to this is correct, that she was basically trying to appeal to a certain demographic and failed hard. You know? She thought that would make her seem tough and decisive. It would make her more relatable to people that live in the country and deal with these kinds of problems. And it completely backfired, yeah. because before this, oh, you know what? I haven't checked this. Let's go to Predict It. Let's go to Predict It and see what Predict It thinks about the vice president race now. Will it be under presidency, maybe? Republican vice president nominee, yes. So it used to be that Kristi Noem was the top contender, wasn't it? Noem, Ramaswamy. No, let's not add Ramaswamy in there. Okay. And let's go to more like a 30-day. Okay, so, oh, okay. So they've been saying Scott for some time. Stefanik is rising. Noem. Okay, so Noem was up there, and then when that story broke over the weekend, look at her chances just greater. Yep. The funny part in that story, man, was that in the story she said, if I was a better politician, I probably wouldn't tell this story. And the newspaper that basically broke the story said that's the understatement of the year. Man, wow. It really is. There's really one of those things that's like, look, I don't think that I would necessarily be a very good politician. I think that maybe I have fairly decent instincts on these sorts of things, but not in the moment. Not in the moment, and in the moment I would probably make a lot. I feel like that in the moment I make a lot of mistakes. Like, the one that always really concerns me is like when we're talking about other people, because I don't like being all about like trashing other, especially when there's creators that are trying to be genuine, and like there's lots of nuance in different situations. Like some people are narcissists, but like, you know, like narcissists are people too, and like there are different levels. There are different levels of narcissists. There are some narcissists that just should have no sympathy and are just become absolutely evil people. But there are some people that you know, they're trying to do a good thing and they just can't help themselves because all they care about is how they're perceived. And I think that there are a couple of people like that in the trading space. I when I see those, I think it's kind of sad, because here you have a person that you know, getting into trading was probably the worst thing that could happen to them, you know? And you know, so when I'm looking at those situations, I'm always trying to like put all of the qualifiers out there and like think about every kind of possible thing that the audience might like think they're reading between the lines, or like false conceptions that they might get about it. And so I'm trying to like blunt those ahead of time, but then it might just turn things into a word salad. I kind of felt like I was stumbling a little bit like that when we were having that discussion yesterday, because, you know, they were talking about court cases, and I'm like, okay, well, we gotta be clear, like, it's not this, or, you know, make sure that nobody gets any crazy ideas. So if I was a politician, you know, in the moment, I would probably make a lot of mistakes, right? But the dog story, I just can't imagine how any person would think that would help them. Like your strategy, your political strategy is outing yourself as a dog killer? What? I just can't. Let's see here. Like, I get if you have to mercy kill a dog injured on a hunt in the middle of nowhere, but let's be real, this was a, I'm sorry, my dog killed your chickens, here, I'll kill it as revenge. Oh, was that it? I don't know, Uzi. I kind of think that in that sort of a situation that I would put the dog down. I don't think that I would shoot it myself, but if it's killing other people's animals, you either have to have it chained up all the time, or you have to get rid of it, right? But I definitely wouldn't present it, and I definitely wouldn't brag about it. That would be one of those things we don't talk about, that, right? I'll buy you some new chickens. Well, okay, but a dog like that is just gonna keep killing chickens, don't you think? Maybe you could chain it up, but would that really be? Would a dog like that really be able to handle being chained up? No, not you. You think so? Okay. Well, maybe you're right that it wasn't to that point. But can you admit that there is a point at which a dog could be causing enough mayhem that it does need to be put down? I do think that could happen. I don't know if that's what was happening in that situation. Well, like, that's what I'm saying, is that I would not be putting a dog down until it was into that situation. And if I was telling a story about it, I would make it very clear that that's what the situation was, and that we felt very strongly that killing the dog was the only option. And she did not do that. She kind of was like, okay, well, whatever. I don't care about it. I'm just going to kill it. Then some dogs belong in farms. Some dogs belong in homes. Not all dogs truly need some huge farm. And never forget, there are people in all locations who would take a free dog and love it. Oh, okay. I don't know if a hunting dog would make a very good house pet. The kind of dog that they're talking about, I don't think would work as a house pet. I don't think that you'd be able to rehabilitate it into. I mean, it sounded like it was still pretty young, so maybe I'm not giving it enough. Probably they're not giving it enough of a chance, right? 14 months old, yeah. Oh, that's tough. So like. I find that a dog isn't super trainable until it's like a year old. So 14 months is kind of within that range. But at 14 months, there's also tend to already have habits, right? Like if your dog is yippy at 14 months, forget about it. You got a yippy dog, you know? That's what I learned with my dog. Well, we're going to put the collar on it. We're going to do all of these things. No. Every time that it barks, it learns that it loves barking. And he'll be quiet if I put the dog collar on it. But it's a yippy dog. There's no untrainable dog. Oh, I don't know about that. Probably is very much the case. I just don't know how to handle it. But I think that, like, if it's a daily thing that my dog escapes from the house and goes and kills somebody else's animals, like, regularly, I still think that there is a point at which, like, that you have to do something. That, like, you might have a couple of different options. One of the options is probably locking the dog up, though. Well, no, yeah, they probably just let their chickens wander around, right? Yeah, you can train any dog, but there are some dogs that will act trained only in front of your eyes, and when you're gone, they still do whatever they want. Electric collar fence, okay, yeah. That might work. That might work. I don't know, a husky's a different kind of a dog. Huskies have their own set of problems, for sure. Those I was saying that, like, for a hunting dog, hunting dogs in particular can be very difficult for homeowners to deal with. I mean, huskies can be very difficult for homeowners to deal with because huskies have a lot of energy. They have a lot of personality. you know, they can have, you know, certain kinds of like demands that a lot of people can't keep up with. So if you're the kind of person that you know, you can dedicate the time to that dog, then huskies are great, right? Okay. A hunting dog, though, on the other hand, has certain kinds of behaviors that are bred into them that they want to do. And if you're not able to control those behaviors, it can become a real problem. You know, like for my dog, the biggest problems that I have to deal with is they'll get yippy, they want to get into the trash. You have to really keep them mentally stimulated. Okay, that's like the worst problems that you have, right? Whereas a hunting dog, like the kinds of problems that you're going to deal with a hunting dog is like, yeah, it escapes and goes and kills things. It's not safe around the kids. And so there are some situations with a hunting dog where you do not want to give that to somebody to try and turn it into a house pet. That probably wouldn't be very smart. So I saw a lot of people saying, you know, well, it's a barn dog now. Okay, maybe it could be a barn dog. If it's not attacking you, kind of sounded like it was also nipping at her, but if it's safe around people, electric fence sort of a thing, maybe, yeah. Yeah, wire-haired pointer. Oh yeah, no, the all of the things I was talking about, them being yippy, that was not about huskies. That was about papillons, right? Those are the problems you deal with a papillon, right? Kind of problems that you deal with as a papillon are like minor inconveniences at best. Like the biggest problem I hear people have with huskies is that they'll howl, and that they can kind of be like a little bit stubborn and too much personality for you sometimes. By the way, the 10-year treasury is starting to develop a little bit more of a downtrend now. But just looking at the timing, because we've got about 3 minutes until the Chicago PMI comes. So I don't know if we're going to break those lows before that. But if the Chicago PMI is hot, that could certainly badoosh. The expectation for the Chicago PMI is 45 versus a previous reading of 41. What are the chances of that being hotter than anticipated? I'm not entirely sure. I'm kind of slightly suspecting that it could be hot. I can't remember enough of like other PMI reports to be able to guess, but the concern should be it comes in hot and it busts those lows and you get quite a bit more downside. Another thing about huskies is that not all of them have the problem. With the hunting dog, right? Not all the hunting dogs have the problem. Do you not have problems with them shedding a lot? For real? Well, or maybe you just vacuum a lot. So I gotta say, like, it's such a funny thing about dogs is like I don't think that people realize how much of a difference in the personalities of different dog breeds there really are, and that they're most of the time there is a perfect dog for the person, and you've just kind of got to select the breed where the kinds of problems that breed has are not a big deal for you. I think that a husky would probably be a problem for me. I don't have a ton of time to go outside with my dog and throw the stick around, right? So the dog would be bored, and well, I guess maybe it would just play with the other dog. maybe that's the thing. But then the shedding would just like kill me. Oh my gosh, because my dogs, my tiny dogs already, I'm allergic to them, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so there was the release, and there was a little bit of a rise into it, and now a bit more of a jump. It's pretty constrained though. In this situation, I might be able to justify a stop limit order. Liquidity is still recovering a little bit. Do you walk your dog? No, I do not. He gets more than enough exercise running around the yard. They have a large enough yard. Yeah, if I took it for a block walk, it'll sleep all day. You're right. You're right. It's a teeny tiny. You know, it's as small of a dog as you can get, really. I think that a Papillon is like extremely well suited to me, because I want, like, you know, I'm a little ADHD. Like, I need mental stimulation. So, you know, when I'm playing with my dog, I'm playing games with it and things like that, right? I think it works. Small dog, very manageable. So I don't have to worry about what will the dog do with the kids. I have an autistic child, okay? I'm sure that like a golden retriever would probably put up with Asher's shenanigans, but there are other types of dogs that I would not feel so comfortable with. My gosh, on Saturday, we decided to just go out. My wife, she just wanted to stay home. I'm like, nope, we gotta go out. We gotta go do something this Saturday. So we went to the Shields, which, if you're not familiar with the Shields, it's just like a really big outdoor store. It's kind of like Cabela's, but there's more of them, and it's actually kind of bigger. And the Shields here in Utah, it has like a Ferris wheel inside of it. So like, it's actually a pretty good place to go and just take your family and look at things. And a lot of people will take their dogs there, you know, because that's one of those places where you can go and find big dog toys and outdoor toys and stuff like that. So there was somebody there that had a Bernese, whatchamacallit, and she's kind of liked those, and you could tell that like after that was like all she was thinking about was that dog. You find the right animal, and that woman is just mesmerizing. So I guess if I ever move out to the country like I want, then I'll get a Bernese. What are they called? What's the last part of it? Bernese Mountain Dog. A Bernese Mountain Dog. Yes, I want a Bernese Mountain Dog. Okay, well, they triggered my stop limit order and filled me at 21, but then didn't go. But we do have the number now. Remember that this was released 3 minutes ago. Oh, what's wrong with my financial juice here? Oh, hold on a second. Why is it being slow today? So I heard them say it. Actual 37.9 versus the forecast of 45. So it was a little low. Oh, did their server crash? No, I shouldn't have reloaded the page, because now the page is kind of loading a little weird. Okay, yeah, 37.9 versus 45. But it didn't go. I'm just gonna stick with that and see what it does. The sim trade. It's even on the experimental account. I never moved it back to the serious account. Now we still have consumer confidence at the top of the hour. So that they might be holding back because of that. And then you got Yellen speaking as well. Flow, well, I don't know. It looks like that it jumped up and now there's just slipping back into the hole. Like the flow didn't continue to come in long. So the execution there on that stop limit order was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. In fact, let's just try and get out at -4. Okay, that's cool. And if it comes back up, we can just try it again, okay? Because I can make up 4 ticks very easily later. If it starts going like that, and it's gonna retrace that, and I can take multiple contracts, I'll make that back. So. Man, but yeah, the whole Kristi Noem story, I don't know. Like, here's the thing, and this is why like it would be such a bad thing to bring up as a politician, is that like this is one of those situations that everybody's gonna have an opinion about, right? Like whether or not it was really justified in this situation and all of this sort of a thing. And even if you were very, very confident that that was like your only choice, people would question it. So I really just can't imagine what she was thinking putting that story out. Whatever. Kind of makes me think about like if Mitt Romney hadn't put out his dog story, how much different would his campaign have been? Did that really dog his campaign that much? Yeah, the real truth is, even if it was a rabid and screaming like a banshee, people would probably still have had a similar reaction. Yeah. But like that's the whole point, is like it's really is a reflection of her skills as a politician. Not only that she brought it up, but also the way that she talked about it. And I kind of wonder like what is going through somebody's head that it's gonna be that you know you would want to talk like that. No, my wife and I adopted a German Shepherd when we lived in an apartment. It was the opposite of what the rescue told us, and I couldn't handle it. We ended up giving it back. I still to this day regret that. With my 3 now, I'd never give up on them. German Shepherd's a different kind of dog. Dude, a German Shepherd is definitely is one of the most commonly given back, aren't they? Yeah, German Shepherds can be very difficult to deal with. I could handle it today. I was stupid back then. Americans and their dogs, man. Like you might as well tell people that you shot your own child in the head. Right? like listen. Asher is the absolute devil sometimes. It is a little freaky to me sometimes. Like, he will not leave his little brother alone. He just straight up bullies him. He will chase him around and then push him to the ground. And I do everything that I can to protect Ethan, but I can't be hovering over him 24/7, right? So there are some instances where that child is the devil, but we still care for him. Most of the time, I'd say he's pretty sweet, right? People are just like that with their dogs. Could be an absolutely terrible dog, you still love him. Had separation anxiety and would pee and vomit on the Oh, jeez. Yeah, that kind of sounds like something that you might be able to work the dog through, because you know, if it's just didn't like being moved, eventually, you know, it gets over it and loves you as its family. And yeah. Tell you what, I don't know why this whenever I start to think about the autistic thing, one of the things that goes through my head, like my mind will ruminate on, is that there are so many famous characters in fiction and things like that I look back on and I'm like, oh, they're autistic. Okay, like of Mice and Men, like the big guy in Mice and Men, he's autistic. That's what it is. He's autistic. There's so many of these characters that like they'd have problems like that, and like people just didn't really understand autism, and it's very distressing to me to think about the amount of people that just ended up living absolutely miserable lives because people either didn't realize that they were autistic or were unwilling to be able to accommodate it. You know, the whole thing about like the exorcism of Emily Rose or whatever, it's supposed to be based on a real story, and that like the clergy were working with this child for like years or something and performed exorcisms on the child like over and over and over and over again. And then I think eventually she died, didn't she? Probably autistic. Like, I don't know why autistic kids do this, but like autistic kids will like talk in this demon voice, man. It's like he can't talk like a normal person. He always has to be that sort of thing all the time. Like he's a zombie or a demon or something. I'm always worried when I'm at church. When I'm at church and he's doing that kind of stuff, that some old person that just doesn't understand is going to come along and think, oh, he's a demon. We need to do something. We need to perform an exorcism. I mean, I do think that there are some situations where like there are biblical stories about possessions. So if you're a Christian, I think you have to believe in possession to some extent. But like a kid being like a child repeatedly possessed over and over and over again, no. There's almost certainly a mental health issue there that the family didn't know how to deal with, and the child was already ruined, essentially. My own religion's understanding of how those things work kind of says that you can't have a child that gets repeatedly possessed. That it don't work like that. That like possession is something that has to be given voluntarily by a person. Like, you don't have these stories in the Bible where, like, a person was possessed and then Jesus cast the devil out and the devil came back, right? Once they've been cast out, they can't come back. So, yes, I believe it's probably the case that the child had a mental health issue and that just, you know, it was a poor family. So the family probably neglected the child and didn't know how to deal with it. And then you get these clergy people that have no clue what's going on, don't know how to deal with it. probably she was autistic. That's what I think. That's what I think. The issue, you gotta keep in mind, the frustrating thing about this is that, like, the issue with autism is essentially like the brain grows differently for various reasons, and that's why it's like a spectrum disorder, because like there's a bunch of different reasons why this abnormal development can occur, and you know, it can occur in different areas, and so like it's widely varies. Okay, but you know, there's a lot of parallels between autism and ADHD, and they're similar. And I'm thinking in many cases, like you get hit with the ADHD stick so hard that you're autistic. Okay. And so basically what's happening is it's those executive parts of your brain that are impaired. So a regular person, what they're doing is they're watching the world, and all of that information that are coming in through their senses is training data that neural network, you know, chat GPT section of your brain is training on, right? That's how we learn language. That's how we do all of these sorts of things, right? So a person, a neurotypical person, you know, a part of what that brain is really good at is saying, oh, okay, we're in this situation, I'm in this culture, or I'm with this group of friends, and so here's the model that I need to use. Or like, especially as you get older, being able to map out how another person thinks to be able to deal with that other person, right? So a neurotypical person is perfectly equipped to be able to help and deal with an autistic person who has that impaired executive functioning. Essentially, you just have to understand that that's what the problem is, that it's their executive functioning that is kind of at issue, and that they have a problem like making those new connections. Okay, so for an autistic child, you know, kind of the issue is it's difficult for their minds to really make good, strong connections. Sometimes because it just doesn't make the connections. Sometimes it's because there's too many connections. Okay. And so what can happen is like, once a behavior becomes ingrained, that bridge in their mind becomes so strong relative to everything else that they just can't help but do it. It becomes very compulsive. So especially when you talk to the really high functioning autistic people, for instance, there's this girl on TikTok that, you know, she's very, very good looking, and she's married, and her special interest is autism, and talking about her autism. And, you know, she talks about how it's like, I know I'm not supposed to talk about it, or like people will find this annoying and I can't help it. Every time I will just go into my spiel over and over and over again. They can't help it. Okay, there's consumer confidence, 97 versus 104, so lower than expected. That's also going to be a boost. Does any of this stuff cancel out the employment costs? I don't know. But so far, they're still shying away from the 21. I'm going to take it off here for a bit. I'm going to let them break out of it. Actually, we'll do it at 22 instead. So yeah, that means that if you have an autistic child and they develop a certain habit, a certain bad habit, like, you're just screwed, right? And so it can be very well be the case that by the time the child is 3 to 5 years old, and if, you know, you weren't aware that this was a thing, you weren't, you know, you just didn't know what was going on, you might already have created problems that you have to deal with for the rest of your life, right? And yeah, something that does happen, and I've seen it happen multiple times, is you'll get like really, really poor family, and I'm talking like stupid poor. Like, there's some people you just down on your circumstances, but there's some people that they've just got mental issues. They're not all there. You know, the kind of places where you go and it's just like you're walking in filth, right? And they just let the child go feral. And real problems. You get real problems. Not gonna happen to my child, though. We've done a pretty good job so far. Pretty good job so far. I'd like to think, at least, that we've done a pretty good job so far. One thing that I did was, it used to be like the only way I could get his attention was to raise my voice. So I would yell at him. If he did something, I made sure that he knew there was no question in his mind that I was angry about it and that I didn't want him to do that, because I thought that's the only way I get through. Right? Well, it worked for a time, but now he just disassociates. So it doesn't work. So now I'm like stuck. Like, if he really hurts somebody, how do you help him understand that that was really bad? Because I'm not sure all the time that he understands it. I'm not sure he understands it. Okay, well, I'm still seeing a lot of orders come through, but I'm finding this action a little disorganized. Maybe it is the case that despite all of the economic data that we're getting, that the day traders don't really want to touch it, because this action just looks really disorganized to me. I'm going to take that off, cancel that potential order, and just sit on it for the rest of the session. I'm thinking. S&P 500 has mostly recovered the downside that we saw around the employment costs or whatever it was. U.S. employment costs, yes. Interesting now that Tim Scott is the leading contender for VP. I mean, I kind of liked Tim Scott during the primaries. Oh, maybe. Because, you know, we're already seeing a lot of minority groups move towards Trump. Like, not like the majority of them, but like enough of a shift that it's really hurting Joe Biden. Like, that's a big change from this election from last. So if Donald Trump had a black vice presidential nominee, that would really boost his support among black people, and that would be quite formidable. And I don't think that Tim Scott has ever, you know, done anything that would like make me super concerned about him being a poor vice presidential candidate. Of course, probably at some point he says something stupid, right? So it's always, I'm almost certain, because I always play it like you're either evil or stupid, right? So they'll try and play Tim Scott off like a Sarah Palin character, like that he just doesn't have a clue what's going on. But from what I've seen, he is pretty smart. So I'm actually kind of thinking that market probably has it right, that Tim Scott is probably the most likely choice at this point. At what point will they decide that, though? Maybe after Memorial Day. Maybe after Memorial Day. All right, let's see here. Let's bring Koifin back up now. Okay, well, it looks like the most of the market is down because of that morning hit. Who's hit the most? MicroStrategy down 10%. Coinbase 3%. Trump up 4.75. Where is that at? Where is that at? I haven't looked at the chart of that in quite some time. We talked about, you know, I'm not necessarily sure I would short this, although should be some concern that it could move down. I think we need a daily chart. Okay, so it looks like there was, and by the way, after this day, like right in here, the like shift, like there was a pretty active social media campaign to like that they were shorting. Like I really feel that there were some big firms and so forth that decided to go short on here, and then we're doing things like posting on social media and everything to try and push it down further. And it went on for a long time. There was also, I think, some stock dilution and so forth. But back to 50 again. So, you know, this is still kind of one of those things that's like, you know, I don't feel too great about the company. Like, the website doesn't do anything for me. I don't like the way the management has been dealing with things, and it just doesn't seem like a great company to me. But I wouldn't short it because could go pop off and do crazy things any day. Nvidia still up, but only barely. Tesla down. Tesla had a big day. How big was the Tesla? I saw so many posts yesterday on like the Wall Street. Wow. Okay, yeah. On the Wall Street Bets subreddit about like making $40,000 from their options and stuff. Okay, wow. The earnings was last Tuesday, and then we just keep seeing gaps up in Tesla. I don't know, like seeing a gap and then another gap is a little bit. I would be a little bit worried about that, but whatever. Hamico down 6%. Oy. Oh, we should look at NewScale. Have they kind of settled down? SMR. Yeah. Okay. So if I really wanted to buy it, I guess I could do it in here. Not a super awesome price though. Freeport McMoran down 2.77%. Wow. Copper did take a hit overnight. Copper did take a hit overnight. M looks like they did good with their earnings. That was this morning. Stellantis down 8%. Oi. I mean, oi, like that hurts, not like oi, like I'm surprised because they suck. Worst car manufacturer right now. Comcast 2%. That's a pretty big move for a Comcast. Yeah. Warner Brothers down 8.34%. Oh, wow. Dude, that is an ugly candle. Why am I stumbling over my words so much all of a sudden? Okay, that is an ugly chart. Whew. You remember when Warner Brothers Discovery was going up, and I was like, I don't think you want to participate in this. And then wasn't this the one that was getting pumped up by Archegos, and then, you know, when it all came out, it just come crashing down? Okay, so let's ignore that part. Let's ignore that part. Let's go from 2022, okay? Yeah, they haven't been executing very well, because basically what happened, this one actually makes me mad, because, like, HBO Max was great service, and basically what they did is they said, oh, we're going to merge, and then we're gonna, like, make all of our assets look like crap so that we can write it all off. Okay, cool, but that doesn't really help for shareholder value in the short term. Okay, so now it's struggling. 2023, struggling. That is ugly. And I don't have an earnings on that either. So is there like a news story out today for them that's really bad? Fox, Disney, Warner will tap streaming sports venture in TV upfront. What's this? Wait. News. Tools. Past 24 hours. NBC prepares $2.5 billion a year bid for NBA rights. Could it be that? I remember when Warner Brother Discovery split from AT&T, I got a handful of Warner Brother Discovery from that, and I immediately liquidated. Really? That's funny. They are maybe kind of pulling this out here. I don't think I really want to mess with it anymore, but maybe that long is going to end up paying out. Could it really be this NBA story? Let's come over to Twitter. And search for... Okay. Warner Brothers Discovery? Or maybe Dollar Warner Brothers Discovery? Well, let's just try it like that. We will be very disciplined on sports rights. We have enough without doing a new deal with anybody. We don't have to have the NBA in the end. If there's a deal, it's going to be very attractive for us and very attractive for Adam. I think that is what they're talking about. I think that's why it's getting hammered today, but good grief. Such an ugly looking... Yeah. They're right. Dune and the Godzilla were good movies. They should be doing better than they are. That Warner Brothers Discovery has nobody to blame but themselves. Like, management just did, like, shareholders should be pissed. Well, okay. Anyways, I've spent too much time on them. But they're on the evil list. They're getting hammered today. Comcast down 2% too. That's pretty big for Comcast. Sorry, I forgot what the ticker symbol was already. Comcast. CMSA. CMCSA. Why is the Comcast? Why isn't... Well, I guess they can't be C. That's Citibank, right? You would think that they would have a simpler ticker. Oh, man, that's a messy chart. That's a very messy chart. Comcast does. Good grief. Well, they've had worse recently, so... Okay, so if you update your indicator package, do I have to re-download to... Yes. Just re-download it, install it like regular, and just overwrite the indicators. So, the one that I posted on Monday, I didn't like... There's not really significant changes in them. But you know, I put that as the date because that's when I first put them on there. There are some updates that I should probably get around to doing. You know, a couple of little weird niche scenarios that a user or two run into, right? There's 22, so it would be triggered in now. I kind of thought that like all of that was a good reason to go long. I didn't like how it was being very disorganized, but it does look like that the flows are coming in long now. I could still take 22 if I wanted to. This took too long. Because basically I can sit in it for 30 minutes. How much am I going to make in 30 minutes? I'm a little bit concerned about how much I would make in 30 minutes from it. Okay, well... Francesco, how are you doing? Good to see you again. Ah, very good. YouTube still promotes my videos. That's good to know. I was a little bit concerned that video didn't do as well as some other videos, but it's been okay. And I didn't like go on YouTube or sorry, Facebook and try and post it or anything like that, but it seems to be doing okay. And you know, I'm not sure if my thumbnail is great either. Okay. Rafah invasion will happen with or without a hostage deal, says Netanyahu. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, let's read this one. Stocks and bonds slammed after unionized and government workers send employment costs soaring in Q1, highlighting just how sensitive the market is to any inflation-deflation narrative questions. The Q1 Employment Cost Index, a data point that is typically of secondary import, printed hotter than expected this morning and sent markets reeling. That was higher than the highest forecast. Highest forecast was 1.15. And guess who is to blame for the rise in employment costs? The government, where compensation is up 4.8% year over year, accelerating back near its fastest in history. And unionized service workers are seeing their wages soar at a record pace, while non-unionized manufacturing workers are seeing wage growth slowing. Yeah, you know, my wife is a flight attendant. I'm sure she would love to see some of that. Some of them wage costs. In other words, persistent wage pressures are keeping inflation elevated. This sent stocks tumbling lower and treasury yields higher. Just add this data point to the disinflation narrative is dead side of the ledger. Gotcha. Then here, Chicago PMI After miraculously surging to 2-year highs in November of 2023, Chicago PMI has plunged for 5 straight months, with the last 4 months seeing month-over-month declines accelerating. Against the expectations of a rise to 45, April's PMI printed 37.9. That's the worst 5-month collapse since Lehman. More problematically, the underlying data screams stagflation. Prices paid rose at a faster pace, signaling expansion. New orders fell at a faster pace, signaling contraction. Employment fell at a faster pace, signaling contraction. Employment inventories fell at a slower pace. Supplier deliveries fell at a faster pace. Production fell, order backlogs fell, which leaves hope languishing at the Bidenomics cycle lows. Cue mainstream media explaining to Chicago you don't understand how strong the Biden economy is. Yeah. Dude, okay, so this is interesting. But the story was, okay, so hold on. Here's an interesting thing for us to note, is that there's much debate, I suppose you could say, about whether or not the Federal Reserve gets this information in their Federal Reserve meeting. I guess, like, they're doing the meeting, like, right now, so they would get that piece of information into their meeting. It could be maybe dominating their meeting. But there's also this thing that, like, do they get the non-farms when it's this close? And last time I checked, they kind of asked him, and he kind of, like, played coy like that they did, but they didn't explicitly said that they did. So, you know, and he has to play coy because he doesn't want to say, like, oh, I did have access to that. You know, I knew what the number was going to be. But the story out of the Wall Street Journal was that they are going to signal that they're willing to hold rates for longer if that's what it takes. So I think leaning into the stagflation narrative, I think, is the play right now. But we'll see. We'll reassess that after Federal Reserve meeting tomorrow. So I think that means that while we are seeing a little bit of a recovery here because we've gotten some weak economic numbers, that I don't think that the treasuries are going to be able to move too far back because, again, it's stagflation, which means that you're going to have a very difficult time lowering rates. Oh, by the way, totally forgot about this. They did come back to our cost basis and, like, look, like, they came to 21.5, coming back. It's magic. I feel like this indicator is magic, man. Am I just, like, is this just confirmation bias? Like, I'm only paying attention to the times when it actually does it? I don't know. I feel like that you're extremely likely to get a rebalance, and when they do, they go right to that price level and then stop. How do you explain that? That's the cost basis indicator that is part of my paid indicator suite at speculatorsset.com. Is it a new? No, it's always been there. It was actually kind of like one of the drivers for putting out a paid suite. Was, wow, this indicator seems really, really useful. I can't just give that one out for free. I don't know. Like, I do find that the places where it seems to really work are a little bit niche. But, you know, the basic gist of it is you'll tend to get this move where they push down here, and then eventually you'll get a recovery of some sort that comes back to the seller cost basis. And then it will like hard bounce off of it. I wouldn't recommend like, oh, it's going to come back and then you sell it from there. What you do is you just take your profits at the line. Okay, well, so before I was kind of saying maybe at 21 or 22 we could go long, and it kind of did look like it was continuing through, but I was concerned about the timing of it and all. And we can see now that 22 was the high, so that would have been a terrible entry if I had taken that. It has pulled back a little bit. Doesn't look to me like that it's been hurt too much, so there could be a little bit of a continuation upward, but now I'm realizing that's where the cost basis was and everything. I'm kind of expecting it to just kind of like chill out here at 20 probably. Somebody dropped something outside. Let's see if there's any other stories here. Okay, Simon White, Bloomberg macro strategist. This guy tends to have good articles. The Federal Reserve's next move this year is likely to be a rate cut, despite the reemergence of inflation, leaving markets at risk of a dovish repricing. When it comes to the Fed, it's easy to get hung up on what they should do and neglect what they actually will do. From an inflation perspective, it's becoming increasingly clear the central bank needs to raise rates further to quell resurgent price growth. But that is unlikely. Instead, the risks to government funding costs and mounting pressure on liquidity are likely to tilt the Fed in favor of cutting rates, even as inflation is making an unwelcome return. I disagree with that statement right there. I think that like the mounting pressure on liquidity and everything is going to make it very difficult for them to like raise rates, but they will do it if inflation is coming through. So I don't think that they would raise rates anytime soon, but you know, after the election, yeah, they could if the data really says that they need to. I don't know if the data that we have right now really says you need to raise rates right now. I kind of think like it is restrictive. Maybe it just needs to be at these rates for a little bit longer. Let's see. This week again draws focus to the greater entanglement of monetary and fiscal policy. The Fed meets on Wednesday, but the Treasury's quarterly refunding announcement is just as consequential for the path of monetary policy, and we found that the Treasury's borrowing requirements on Monday. The amounts are eye-watering: $243 billion in quarter two and $847 billion in quarter three. And unthinkable outside of a recession only a few years ago. The market is gradually waking up to the Treasury put and the realization the fiscal deficit is unlikely to go back to a non-recessionary norm anytime soon. Term premium is rising as lenders demand greater compensation for holding longer-term debt. The chart below shows a tradable proxy for term premium, the difference between the 10-year and the 1-month OIS rate, 10-year forward. It is as high as it's been since the Great Financial Crisis. Other measures of term premium are also rising. ACM term premium has gone back into positive territory, while implied measures of term premium based on forecasters' estimate of the 10-year bill rate are already 150 basis points higher than the OIS-based term premium above. Even if treasuries are not as overpriced as this infers, the government still has a problem. As important for yields as how the Treasury wants to borrow is how it intends to borrow it. On Wednesday, we will find out the proportion of longer-term versus shorter-term debt Treasury expects to issue over the next 2 quarters. The increase in bill issuance over the last year or so has been of immense importance to markets. The Yellen pivot meant that liquidity lying idle in the reverse repo facility could be used by money market funds to buy bills and thus help fund the government. Without this, there's a strong likelihood the massive sovereign issuance would have crowded out other assets and markets would be considerably weaker. The Treasury thus implicitly or otherwise aided the Fed by allowing it to keep rates higher for longer and proceed with quantitative tightening. Wednesday's announcement will shed further light on whether the Treasury will stick to its stated aim and not significantly increase coupon, i.e. non-bill issuance for now. Look at the nominal amounts of coupons and bills issued appears to confirm this has been the case. But in duration adjusted terms, the picture is already changing. The amount of coupons issued adjusted for duration is rising. That will amplify the move higher in term premium and ultimately jeopardize support or risk assets. In other words, they're saying we could see treasuries fall a little bit further. U.S. treasuries are simply not in high demand at current prices. Foreigners are more wary due to reserve confiscation risks or put off by high FX hedging costs. Banks have, on net, been reducing their ownership of treasuries as policy has been tightened. Multi-asset managers have less need when treasuries are a poor recession hedge when inflation is elevated, and poor portfolio hedge when stock-bond ratio is positive and the Fed is busy trying to offload its U.S. Treasury inventory. Households have become the de facto buyer of last resort for treasuries, but there's nothing to suppose they'll be happy to continue to do so at any price. As the chart below shows, consumers' long-term inflation expectations typically lead term premium. The market's view of longer-term inflation is about 150 to 200 basis points lower than the household's outlook. As the U.S. Treasury buyer of last resort, households will increasingly set the price one that's likely to be lower than it is now. Real quickly, Wesley says, do you have videos on your channel about your indicators? Yes, I have a whole video where I go into all of them. It's super dry and boring. I'm kind of thinking about after I get the next 2 videos or so out that I might make smaller videos for all of the individual indicators so that I can like embed them in the website or something like that. But what I would do if you want to know about the indicators is just go to speculatorseth.com and there's detailed documentation. You just browse around, you'll find it. It's on the download page. There's a link to it. I think there's also a link to it on the front page. And I have pretty thorough explanations of what they all do. Okay. Higher long-term yields will lead the government having to borrow yet more to pay its spiraling interest bill on its outstanding debt, but that points to fewer reserves and falling reserve velocity, effectively undoing the work of the Yellen pivot and leaving the stock market in a precarious spot. The Fed is thus likely to cut rates in a quid pro quo with the Treasury. This would not only help the government fulfill its borrowing requirements at a non-usurious cost, it also helps the Fed with its responsibility for financial stability by taking the pressure off risk assets and reducing the likelihood of a funding squeeze. Even though such a move would be unwise, it doesn't mean it won't happen. Cutting rates before inflation has been snuffed out threatens to intensify structural risks for price growth. But in the heat of liquidity drying up, funding risks rising, markets on increasingly shaky ground, and the government locked in an issuance doom loop as its interest costs soar, the Fed is likely to cut rates as an easy first move to ease the pressure, an outcome made even more likely with an election looming. In the short to medium term, it's hard to see how quantitative tightening isn't soon tapered or curtailed, but the Fed is unlikely to want to go full tilt into easing again or engage in yield curve control. That is why the longer term sort of financial repression where private cash flows are directed into public debt markets is very likely. This would be yet another chip in the de facto erosion of Fed independence. In such an environment, gauging the central bank's next move needs to consider the spending whims of government as much as the outlook for inflation and unemployment. Well, I do think that the Federal Reserve would probably consider, or does consider, like, okay, we have these regional banks and they have all of these assets on their books, and if we raise rates, they're going to go out of business. I think that does come up. I don't think that they would keep rates just for the sake of the government, though. Like, their job is maximum employment and price stability. And it's the government's job for, debt and all of that sort of a thing. And covering for the government doesn't make the situation better. And I don't think that Jerome Powell would see it that way. I think that he would go, well, we're going to do what Federal Reserve is supposed to do. But I don't think that it would be like they would raise rates. Like, we would have to see, like, through the summer that inflation start to come in. And then they would probably play catch up again. So, but that's an interesting story. Simon White of Bloomberg, he's a good analyst. He gives us good insight into what's going on in the treasury markets and everything. I mean, the simple way of explaining it is that, they've got tough decisions to make because, either way, there's pain. You keep interest rates high, then we incur a high cost for financing the debt. And if you cut interest rates, you get inflation. So what you gonna do? We'll see. Lawrence Summers, this morning's ECI and housing price inflation figures confirm what I have suspected and feared. Inflation is not securely trending to target levels. Note that the ECI has accelerated from previous quarterly, semi-annual, and annual levels. I suspect it has been understating the labor cost of inflation of late because of reduced work requirements associated with work from home. Oh, now that's interesting. Why would that be? Maybe because if you work from home, you don't have to pay people quite as much because they don't have to travel. The home price inflation figures are also cause for concern that shelter inflation is not durably declining. With higher interest rates and higher unit prices, rents will at some point reaccelerate. Note that, as many have pointed out, bottlenecks have been easing over the last year or so, reducing inflation momentum. This will not be forever, and given geopolitics may reverse. Financial conditions are now loose by historical standards. All reasons why the Federal Reserve is in a treacherous environment, should have been more careful about easing signals, and now should be very cautious about possible rate cutting. I think that for the last 6 months, that the Federal Reserve should have done more to, keep the financial conditions where they were in October, to keep the interest rates high, and that they started kind of all talking soft and, the market will do what it's going to do, but now it's kind of running away from them, I think. So how is the Federal Reserve going to deal with that tomorrow? There's going to be a different kind of Federal Reserve meeting, I think, because, normally it is the reporters will ask questions and they're trying to get Powell to say something. And then Powell is doing his best to not say anything while still answering their questions. And when I say not say anything, I mean like provide new information. Now, they're kind of at a point where they can't afford to play that game anymore. And so the headline that we got was that they're willing to keep rates higher for longer. But they're not, that is a shift, but I don't know if that's enough of a shift for it's kind of like, it makes me think about this situation in Japan, where it's like that Japan can say all that they want, but everybody kind of knows, like, you're doing like currency neglect here. My money is not safe in the Japanese yen. And it may do a similar sort of a thing. which is to say that you could see Powell come out and seem very, very hawkish, but because he didn't say, oh yeah, like I'm actually totally into like raising rates, maybe even before the election if we have to. And if the market doesn't hear that, then they're gonna read it as dovish. You know what I mean? U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen, I am concerned about where we're going with the U.S. deficit. Oh, okay. You too? I'm concerned too. Wow, we have so much in common, Janet. You know what? I don't think that's not a knock on her. That's a knock on the way that the news reports those kinds of quotes. So I'm sure that what she was, you know, within the context, that it didn't sound so stupid. It's a little interesting today to see all of the economists that I've read, at least, seem to be very much into this, like, probably we should be like raising rates right now, but they're not going to, and we have a real problem here. I would have thought that you would wait until after Federal Reserve meeting to say things like that, because like whatever you're posting is probably going to be irrelevant after Wednesday anyways, you know? Ah, okay, so this guy that was talking about, you know, trying to get something from NinjaTrader to Discord says that there's an indicator on the app system. NinjaTrader user app share, is that what it was called? Yeah. User app share. Search IFTTT. Okay. Something, an indicator created in 2019. Let's download it and look at it. Let's see here. Set up IF account. Install and configure a NinjaTrader, create applet. Okay. And download. Tools, import, NinjaScript add-on. And then it takes forever for the window to pop up, and I select the zip file I just downloaded. It's a third-party add-on, really? Really? So does that mean... Hold on. Oh, it is a CSS file. I don't know why it considers it. Oh, because it probably puts it into the add-on folder. That's probably what it is. It's probably in here in add-ons. Well, no, it doesn't. I don't see it in there. What's the name of it? IFTTT? Well, it's not showing up here. Oh, share services. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay. I've never looked at one of these before. I'm gonna learn something today, guys, about Ninja's Trader programming. Okay, so we got a copy to must be overridden for any custom service properties to be copied over when instances of the service are created. Set value, blah, blah, blah. Okay, there's an icon on share. Log and print. Task on share. String text, string image file path, object args. Arg 0, 1, 2. Huh. Properties, webhooks, key, and event name. So where did those args come from? So if I come over here to alerts now, I say actions, add. No, that's not what we want. Play a sound, share a message. Oh, okay. Share service selected. Select share service. Oh, and they're not configured. Do I need to configure them somewhere? Tools. Options, maybe? Nah, doesn't seem right. Okay, wait. Let's go back to this documentation here. Navigate to Tools, Options, General. Tools, Options, General. I just didn't look closely enough. And click Edit Share Services under Preferences. Add share service. If this, then that. Okay, so I got to grab this information from. I haven't logged into if then that for a long time. Think I can figure it out before the stream ends? It's a race against time. Oh, I'm a local. Create. Add a webhook. Yes. What they're saying here is doesn't seem like receives a web request. Just receive a web request. create trigger. And then that would be send to Discord. I don't think that Discord does it correct. Oh, but maybe it does. Host a rich message channel to a channel. Okay. Oh, and you get to have 3 values that you put into it. A. So that seems correct. Because in the Ninja script, it was saying that there's 3 arguments that you get to put into it. Plus, what news provider do you use? I use Financial Juice. Use Squawk. I have an affiliate link in the video description. So now I think I want to go back to options. Wants me to try the pro. No, I don't want to do that. Those. Ah. I have reached my app limit. What do I got? But all of my applets are currently like not working. That's funny. Okay, so I have to like delete them or something. How do I do that? Settings, maybe. If this then no. Cancel. Archive. Applet was archived. Aha, okay, that got rid of it. Wait, well, it's not archive 10. Okay. Try it again. Yeah, webhook. Receive a web request. Ninja Trader. Then Discord. Post a rich message to channel. Oh, this applet uses features only available to pro users. Boo. What if I just leave the webhooks key blank for now? Okay. And then I go into alerts and I pop it up over here. We say actions, add, share a message to if this then that. Text message. Okay, well, I got far enough to ask him a question, but I didn't get it working because if then that. Probably it doesn't like a Discord. I could do a webhook over here. Could do webhooks on this other side, make a web request. Yeah, oh. I just create that action, does it let me do that one? No. Wow, the if this then that service has really gone downhill. All right, well, whatever. Which one is the best? If you can afford it, go and get News Squawk, formerly Ran Squawk. They are a little better than Financial Juice, but I think Financial Juice gets the job done, and I'm really happy with Financial Juice's service. But you get what you pay for, so, you know, it is what it is. I should get going, guys. Sorry. Tomorrow is going to be a huge day. So, yeah. See you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay